Hey, folks, welcome to Disgruntled for this week. Today, we are going to have a great conversation. Jason and I are here with you, but we also have a very special guest. And I'm not going to tell you who it is yet because this guy is super famous and super important. So we will wait until it is his time to jump into the fray. The conversation we're going to have today is centered around VA accredited attorneys and why it might be a good idea for veterans who are struggling to either get approved or find benefits through the government system. We all know that you start out going to your county veteran service officer or something like that. And then if you get denied, well, we did the best we can for you. If things change, come on back and we'll talk about it. So let's bring in Jason. And we'll also bring in our good friend Ben Kraus. There they are. Hello, fellas. How are you? Very, they're very eager to talk today.
Try to be so nice to Ben. And then he just goes radio silent.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Hey, folks, welcome to another installment of Disgruntled with Jason and Richard. Thanks for being here with us. Today, we've chosen to have a discussion about, in my opinion, something that is absolutely ridiculous, but we'll get into it. We're going to discuss the topic of migrants at the border attacking the National Guard members that are there to secure the border, and the things that did not happen and maybe should have happened when all this stuff went down. I think everybody saw it or at least heard about it. If not, I would assume that you're living under a rock or in a cave or something like that. But let's bring in our good friend Jason. Hello, sir.
Hey, brother.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Pretty excited for today.
Oh yeah, why is that? Why is that?
This is a great topic. This is we've had this conversation now over the past couple of months, and it continues to give. I think more and more things are being laid out in front of us. So I'd love just the way that we can talk about it, and point out some of the things that you and I have been discussing offline.
Okay, well, then let's have it. What do you got? What do you got?
Well, who would have thunk that you're going to put a bunch of guard guys and reservists down on the border? Well, excuse me, just guard guys, because they can't mobilize a reserve component for this. But again, you put guard folks down on the border. I'm assuming no ROE, no real plan, just we're going to have a show of force. And what happened?
Chaos.
They got buckled.
Yeah.
You know, they got buckled. Oh, what a shock, you know. And then we had just spoken about it. Apparently, the Mexican cartel were giving our government some intel reports that they were telling these people that this was a legitimate point of entry. Thus, their resolve for gaining the high ground coming across that fence. I mean, this foolishness has to at some point be acknowledged by the powers that be, right, dude? Like,
You would think. Yeah, you would think. I think what happened is that these migrants at this particular place told the powers that be in America that the cartel told them, you go here, you tell them, the Border Patrol or whoever was there prior to the National Guard being there, tell them A, B, C, and D, and you'll have no problem. They'll let you right in. But they showed up there, and soldiers were there, and they're like, no mas. Nope, not happening. And then they got pissed, broke down the fence, and charged. And what I noticed about this was, for all those people, and I didn't see all of the video. I think I saw like 8 seconds of the video. But I only noticed like 4, maybe 5 soldiers. And there had to have been 20 or 30 of these illegals there, breaking down the fence, and then just shoving their way past these soldiers. What I also didn't notice was any kind of weapons or way for them to defend themselves. I didn't see any rifles slung across their bodies. And maybe I missed that. But you would think that the ROE would be such that you're going to defend yourself should you get bum rushed.
You know, I don't give a shit if they're carrying a stick over their shoulder. But you better be throwing some whirly dervishes at a certain point. Like, I'd have hit the highlight reel. Like, if I had a bunch of dudes overrunning me, you know, at $74 a day, you know, the meager pay that, you know, the enlisted guys are getting at the border. Now you're going to get bum rushed by a bunch of illegals, you know, and they're going to, you know, they're clearly invading the guard guys, their personal space. Like, that would be enough for me to start throwing fisticuffs, or at least a really good chokehold, just something. And it kind of, you know, again, we continually set these people up for failure. I say we figuratively, because I don't think anybody here is making any of these choices and or decisions this way. But, you know, you look at what Hochul did in New York, total travesty. waste of time, resources. Was it a show of force or was it a show of good faith? It turned out that either way, it was a show of jack shit. Nothing happened. It didn't change anything. Now, you've got Texas going out on a limb, making a bold proclamation that they're going to defend their border. Well, how are you defending it? By lining up, guard dudes? Well,
with no weapons.
Yeah, right? Like, throw some weighted gloves on it, brother. Like, give me something. Like, I want, just being there in a patched uniform, the people that are coming there don't respect authority anyway. So, these people understand real authority is with guns and bullets if they're coming from countries that have chaos and problems, right? So it doesn't matter. An American soldier doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot to somebody who's coming this way.
Well, so that's a really good point, man. What is it you think about the home countries of these illegals that makes them want to flee there? Tyranny,
Right.
Violence, guns, weapons, murder, rape, whatever it is. That's what they understand. That's what made them want to leave. That's what made them want to leave their home.
Right.
So I guess now that you say that, everything except for the rape is probably what we should display. You break down our fence, you're going to be met with bullets. And we should give our soldiers those sapper caps, the ones with the lead in the top. You just flick
Thumpers?
them. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
just thumper caps and just start flicking them.
Well, something, right? Like anytime you're set up to do something, you don't do it at work. Your boss doesn't go send you to go do something without the proper tooling, or the proper knowledge or the proper equipment. Just the fact that we continually make these, and we're going to quote one of our great friends here, this continual push towards gesture politics. Right?
Push hands.
Because they're just saying something. We're not really doing anything. I think it's novel, the approach and the idea, but certainly if you're going to secure the border, you have to actually secure a border. You can't just say certain things and then put people in harm's way and just expect there not to be an instance of confrontation. I mean, this is the first one that we know of that we've seen videotape or photographic evidence of. But I can assure you, I would assume it's happened before, and it's sure as hell going to happen again. But I guess disproportionately, looking back in the last video that we shared where, the ICE agents were on or the DHS guys were on this side with, like coffee and noodle soup ready to go, walking them along. This is a step, certainly maybe not the final step, but, we're at least trending. We're getting some lift in the right way.
Yeah, you're right. There was no coffee or cup of noodles waiting for them.
Right. Maybe they found they had MREs in their pantaloons, and that's what they were going after.
Yeah, well, they certainly didn't want any of that shit.
There was some Jambo in there.
If there was jambalaya in there,
That's what caused it.
that's worth tearing down a fence for.
That's what happened. We've got to have a reason.
You're such a prick, bro. It was the best. It was the best MRE ever made.
Trash. If anybody wants to take the time to comment, best MRE, I assure you, 1 year from this date, when we have some data to put this together, jambalaya will not be at the top.
What do you think will be?
I have no idea, but we should probably get off that. But it won't be Jambo. And I'm gonna
No. We're gonna stay right here for a minute. What is your number one?
Dude, I told you, I love trash. It's beefsteak with mushrooms. It's garbage, but I'm accustomed to it. But I'd have to.
It's not gonna beat out jambalaya.
There's no way. But I'm gonna make the vote. It's gonna be that cheese tortellini trash. And again, we have to subject that to the people that we know from the time frame that we were in, because I know there's a whole new menu out there.
Ladies and gentlemen, if any of you out there are patriots, you will answer honestly, and you'll type in the comments real simply, jambalaya. It was the best MRE ever.
No.
Anyway, I digress. Here's my question about the topic. What do you suppose the conversation with the governor and the tag and any other National Guard leadership was as far as ROE is concerned. Because I can tell you exactly what my concern would be if I was a full bird colonel or a sergeant major. I could tell you exactly what I would be worried about, and it would be exactly what happened. Well, what's going to happen, sir, when these folks don't get what they want and they tear down this fence, or they tear down the concertina wire, or they penetrate the obstacle, whatever that may be, and they bum rush my soldiers? What are my soldiers supposed to do?
Right.
Clearly, either that conversation didn't happen, or it was not a conversation that had the well-being and the safety of the soldiers with boots on ground in mind.
Well, have we ever seen the end of this? Because I've only seen like a 7-second video.
No, and we never will see
Right.
the end of it.
So how did it end? Like I would assume the likelihood of whatever their resolve plan was, and you could bet that it was the state CSM that stepped in and asked that question. Because it wasn't the tag.
No.
Tag's already planning his next job in politics. Like, he's down the road on it. And again, I don't know the man. Might be a very fine man, but political officers are no different than politicians, right? So they're going to be moving on to that next. But I guarantee that state CSM was thinking about it and probably asked the question. The can got kicked down the road, and I'm sure then whatever the level of increment was, brigade command all the way down, or group, they probably figured something out. And I would assume if we could ever see something, in its entirety, to actually see that to full resolve, we could see what that was. But the fact that it didn't happen quickly, it didn't happen in real time. I mean, within 10 seconds of that wall coming down, there should have been massive efforts of troops coming up or down on the backside. I mean, if it were me,
Or concentrated fire.
Right. Well, fire, or just Humvees along the backside of the fence. You can't push a fence down if it's backed up to a Humvee. I mean, we've utilized those things before. You see how when they go to protect a political installation here in the States, how do they protect that fence?
Yeah.
You've got people in front, victors in the back, like everything's kind of set up. It's a simple thing. It's no different. So again, would they say that the vehicle was being used in the same sense as a rifle or a weapon? Maybe. I don't know. Like I don't want them to expose their plan to us. But if this happened once, it's going to happen again. What's the next one going to look like? That's, I think, a pretty fearful thing to think that you have 1,200 soldiers on that border. And, what are some of the numbers that you hear of these people coming across?
I think, man, that none of that matters. And here's why.
Right.
I think that if there was a plan in place for when and if soldiers get attacked, I think we would have seen it. I think that if the plan was, hey, if this barrier or this threshold gets infiltrated or crossed, you step back and start clipping wings with hot ones. If that would have happened, we would have seen it. Because also remember that all these shitheads that are trying to come into our country, they all got cell phones too. They all got cameras and they all have internet access. If the United States military started defending themselves with deadly force,
we would know.
We'd know about it. Now, I'll say that you're right. There definitely is good strategic ways to reinforce your barriers. But in my opinion, this isn't a political principle. This isn't anything that we're trying to keep the peace. We are trying to protect our home. If you cross this line, you mean us harm. If you cross this line, you are not here for the right reasons. It's been said over and over and over again.
But has it?
I believe maybe not by the government.
Well, who's the most important person making the
Well,
sound?
you're 1,000% right.
You know, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I don't think anybody should be coming here in this manner. But at the same time, you know, how many times have we heard our government say, "Oh, this is a war better fought on their land than it is on ours," right? There's always these reasons to send money to these areas because if we can defer the threat that's coming to us in their backyard, that's money well spent. Well, who in the Sam Hill is paying attention to the problem that we've been facing for the past 3 years and fighting that fight on the home front? It seems like that's one they're willing to fight on our doorstep. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend for 5 seconds that that's not by design. It's not being allowed. It's not being. It's being curated at some level, some point, somehow. Because if we will spend $133 billion every quarter, and I'm just going to quote the big guy on this one, in some shithole country that truly doesn't have an impact on our GDP, our safety, or anything else, but we're going to keep that fight there so that doesn't become our problem. Yet somehow through all this, all of these people seeking asylum for all those same problems, we're not sending any money there to stop them in their tracks.
Right.
Or are we? And then the money finds its way into the people that are coming here.
So that further proves the point. The conversation about soldier safety and well-being was probably not had. And so if what you're saying leads to this idea that it's about political posturing and money here and money there, and again, money, power, and control, if that's the narrative that they are trying to hide, well, it's a damn travesty, because the whole world just saw 5 or 6 United States soldiers get bum rushed. And if any of those people had a knife to slip into the rib cage of one of those soldiers, or decided to just gang up on one of them and beat him to death, well, then what?
Where would we be today?
It'd be all-out war. And it wouldn't just be the government. You better believe that Texans, they're going to saddle up them horses and they're coming south to the Alamo.
They're hopping on their Longhorn.
That's right.
Finally see it again.
Yeah, there's going to be Longhorns just steering the hell out of son bitches. Right? And so I'm not trying to say that I believe that you're wrong. I'm just trying to say that this situation, in my opinion, is a lot more intense than I believe we're led to believe.
Correct.
I believe that the steps that should be taken should be way more speed and violence of action. Do not cross this line or you will die. And the first 10 people that do it, leave them lay there to rot in the sun. So the next 10 people can see them, smell them, watch the bodies turn into gel, and watch the buzzards pick their eyes out. Let them watch it. It's harsh. It's extreme. But how else are they going to learn?
Right. Well, and that's at peace, right? Because, you know, it's the same reason I would never be mad at somebody from a country where they have a poor educational system, you know, making decisions or saying things. I mean, it was one of those things in my first experience in Iraq. You kind of wonder, like, what do you think when you pop out from the backside of a hut and you throw this probably 50-year-old RPG at an A1A2,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
what do you expect the positive outcome to be in this situation?
Exactly.
Like, are you somehow going to magically thread that needle down the barrel of the main cannon? Yeah, like just some magic. And it still won't do
A 1 in a
anything,
50 million shot? Yeah.
right? I mean, the thing, it just hits the side, blows, falls, and the main cannon. You know, I mean, you just met a law, so I guess, you know, mission accomplished if that was the plan. But when we were able to actually engage and talk to some of the locals, you know, when they're being taught that everything that we have is not what it really is, it starts to make more sense when they think all of our planes are radio controlled and that our tanks were made of wood. You know, I mean,
What?
I remember. Oh yeah, that was one of the. No, we had pushed north into that Balad area, and so we were fortunate enough to have a few people that were still part of the Iraqi resistance that were, that had kind of turned. Obviously, were no longer hostile towards us, and we were able to engage and have conversations and kind of ask things about that area. And that was one of my questions. I was like, wow, if I get the chance, I'm just asking, like, what are you thinking? Like, you've got a bunch of like MiGs dug into the sand. You got your reconnaissance aircraft is the equivalent of, our Cessna. That you would take
Yeah.
flying on a Sunday to go check out the river valley. And this is your heavily armored intelligence gathering aircraft for what we would know as like their northernmost air base. Okay, they had cool bunkers. There wasn't anything in it but old, dope needles and sandals. But here I was, and I was kind of faced with that, and I had to ask, because how do you feel? I mean, nobody that's been around a battery of tanks rolling in to anywhere. I don't care if it's at Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, Fort Hood, Texas, or at a forward position. When you have 8 tanks or more in a battle group pushing forward, that is a feeling in your feet that you will never forget. And so
Your feet. How about your nuts?
well, that's what I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Think about somebody that's never felt anything like this before, and all of a sudden, the evening is the sun is setting, and here you are going into your hut, and then everything starts to shake, and it gets
Yeah.
that rumble, and then you start to hear things happening, and you come out, and this idea that you've had in your mind of what the American military might really is. Well, the reality just came, and it showed up on your effing doorstep.
Yeah.
And it's a
Yeah.
little different than what you thought it was going to be. I mean, that's kind of that piece that I look at, where nothing that's going on in this country and anywhere else isn't by design. It's if you're being taught things are a certain way, these people aren't coming to America not being told that they have an open door. Right? They're not coming. There's enough knowledge out there about America and Americans as a whole that I think it would be. I don't think Manuel and Paula are going to be moving out of Argentina, hitting the southern border, thinking that they're committing a crime, doing something that's going to, number one, take the Americans who they want to become a part of and have them pissed off at them. They would never come to that. So they're being told something different. And then, again, and to your point, if you then start just stacking bodies on the border, of course, that's going to create this chaos. But there's something precipitating this. There's something on the front end. There's something left of bang going on here.
Yes.
That is just, that again, and it's all hypothetical, but we don't live in a world where there is a lot of random activity outside of nature. It surely seems like our society